So thank you so much for being here. Let me just tell you real quickly, what is TransformSC? As you can see in here, if I do it correctly, there you go. TransformSC is a business-led coalition of parents, students, teachers, educators, policymakers, everybody at the table who all believe that if we work together, we can transform the system of public education in this state so that every student in our state is career, college, and citizenship ready. I know that in this group, I don't have to tell you why we need to do that. Y'all know the statistics, you know the demands of the jobs of the future, and you know that we are leaving children behind, that we don't need to leave behind if we just transform the way we teach and the way our system works. So thank you for recognizing that and wanting to come. How are we going about doing this? The first thing that we did as a group was we worked with a group of superintendents and businesses across the state to define what does that graduate need to look like? What is the profile of the graduate for the 21st century? And this is what everybody could agree on. That is, we do need world-class knowledge, which the standards provide to you as teachers and educators to implement. We don't need to write those standards. You do, because you are the experts in what needs to be taught in order to get to those rigorous standards. So we just want world-class knowledge in the subject areas that you see up here. But as importantly, if not more importantly, to the businesses in the state, we've heard from them that these world-class skills and life characteristics are just as equally important as the world-class knowledge is to success in a job and success in life. So you've got a copy of the profile on the graduate in your program, so I won't read it to you, but it is guiding everything we do as a group. The State Board of Education has adopted, along with many business groups, the State Chamber of Commerce and others, and also to I believe in fact, it's been presented to the Budget Committee of the House and also to Chairman Allison's Committee on Education and her task force that's working on what we need to do for education over the next several years. So that's guiding everything we do. But also as important is what does that learning model need to look like that will lead us to those skills and those characteristics and that world-class knowledge. How does the classroom of the future need to look? You're going to hear a lot about that today. You're going to hear about personalization. You're going to hear about competency-based education, pacing it to the individual student. You're going to hear about using technology in the right way, not just technology for technology's sake, but technology to help the student. And then, of course, we want to continue to have evidence-based learning and accountability for our learning. So with that, I'm going to get into the most important part of the day, and that is hearing from our schools. So I'm going to first tell you that we've got Lexington 4 Early Childhood Center here represented. We've got Oakdale Elementary School. We've got Whittemore Park Middle School and Cougar New Tech High School. So we thank them for making the trek in several cases to get here this early today. I'm going to not introduce them all at once as far as who they are, but as they come up. And then after the principals present, then we'll bring the students and the teachers and the parents up to talk about their experiences of the last couple of years. So the first one is Lexington 4 Early Childhood Center. Lexington 4 Early Childhood Center opened 5 years ago, and it serves Swansea and Gaston, which is in southern Lexington County. It's an area that has had a long history of generational poverty and low education attainment. This center serves all children in the district who are aged 3, 4, and 5. It is truly an early childhood center. They have over 600 students. They've got 23 multi-age Montessori classes and 1 single-age traditional class. So parents do have choices there. Children stay with the same teacher for the entire time they're at the center, and they move at their own pace to learn both their cognitive and their non-cognitive skills, such as orderliness, perseverance, concentration, organization, independence, and all those exploration skills. Those are the early childhood version of these life skills and characteristics that people, businesses, and parents and our citizens are asking for in our children. So it's my pleasure to introduce the Early Childhood Center's principal, Lillian Atkins, who's going to tell you more about their approach and talk about their results.
Thank you. Good morning. You covered the whole first page. That's great. No, it'll be shorter now. Thank you. So yes, our school district does serve about 3,500 students altogether in the towns of Gaston and Swansea. And our community is made up mostly of blue-collar workers. About 22% of the adults hold managerial or professional positions, and about 33% of our adults hold less than a high school diploma. 79% of our students qualify for free and reduced lunch, and our district's poverty index is 86%. But the ECC serves over 600, picture in your head, over 600 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds who get off the buses every day. It's kind of a daunting task when they pull up and you start I try not to think about it too hard. And we serve all of them who want to come to school. All of our 3s and 4-year-olds are in multi-age Montessori classes, and we had to have 24 of those. Our 5K students' families have a choice between staying with in that Montessori environment with that same teacher or going into a more traditional 5K single-age class. By far, the majority of them choose to stay in the Montessori environment. And Montessori is typical that a child would stay for 3 full years, and as you can imagine, there are lots of advantages to having that same teacher, that same learning community for that long. Currently, we do have 24 classes of Montessori, and picture the Montessori class has about 24 children in each one, and they're ranging in that class from ages 3 to 6. We have one traditional single-age class that's experimenting with inquiry learning now. We have 2 preschool disability classes. One of them more utilizes the Montessori method, and of course, we are always working to get those children into the regular classroom for at least part of the day. We have a resource teacher who also has time to provide us with some interventions. We have a behavior interventionist, an instructional coach, and a guidance counselor. The Early Childhood Center opened 5 years ago and is a result of a bond referendum. And it is an honor for all of us who work at the Early Childhood Center to work in a community that appreciates the importance of early childhood education. At the end of our first year, we kind of took a step back because, as you can imagine, we went into it with one idea, and at the end of that many days with that many young children, we had some new insights. So we took advantage of this unique opportunity and our leftover shock from it all, and decided to re-examine what we now believe to be our purpose. And to make sure that we're always true to this purpose, we wrap everything we do around it. We begin every meeting with our purpose, we end every meeting with our purpose, and everything we do, we hold it up to that measuring stick to see that we are fulfilling that purpose. And that, am I on it? Okay, we're still on that one. We start every, I said that. So our purpose is to prepare a learning environment. Thank you. Our purpose is to build a learning environment that nurtures the whole child while building a partnership with families and the community. When we talk about the environment in our purpose, we mean so much more than just what the classroom looks like. The environment refers to the relationships between the teachers and the students and the students. It refers to the purposefulness of the materials in the classroom, our indoor and outdoor learning areas, and to the entire school plant and all of the people who work within it to serve our children. Looking at this slide, you see 2 neurons. One is an impoverished neuron, and the other one is an enriched one. What makes the enriched neuron look so much more promising? It's all the rich experiences in an environment that stimulate those all-important connections that promote a child's physical development, their social emotional development, and the ability to express themselves and to acquire knowledge. And you can see the second one is what you want. All children, All children are born with potential. Our genes provide the blueprint, but it is those early environments that leave a lasting signature on those genes. You've heard the term executive function. That refers to working memory, self-control, and attention skills. And they are the crucial building blocks for early development of both cognitive and emotional capacities. Although new synapses continue to develop throughout our lives, and I know you're as glad for that as I am, that after you turn 4, it's not the end. The most rapid period of emergence is birth, is the first 4 years of life. Nature provides the construction materials, but it's the nurture in that early environment that is the architect that puts them all together, for better or for worse. How do we take advantage of this remarkable opportunity of over 600 brains that are full of developing neurons every day? At the Early Childhood Center, we use the Montessori philosophy to take full advantage of a time, that special time in an individual's life, not only to learn things, but to have that learning actually become a part of their brain development. I always think back about my youngest daughter who minored in Italian, went to Italy. She is fluent in Italian, but it was hard work. But a child who learns something when they're as young as a 3- and 4-year-old, it becomes a part of that brain development, and thereby giving even more connections, more synapses for more learning to take place. We are not the only public school in South Carolina that utilizes the Montessori method. About 6 or 7 years ago when we started planning, we had a lot of help from the State Department of Education and other schools who have used Montessori for years, and we're grateful to all of them who guided and supported us. What might make us a little unique is that we offer a full day of preschool in a Montessori method to every child in our district, beginning at 3. We don't turn anyone away. There's no tuition, nor do we charge any fees, and the district provides transportation, making it available for everybody who wants to come. Research supports the idea of high-quality early childhood experiences for all children, but it's particularly important for children of poverty. Think of the difference between those two slides, the impoverished one and the one that's been enriched. At the Early Childhood Center, we believe that starting at the age of 3 and providing a rich environment, school can help mitigate the effects of poverty and engage parents in the academic and social and emotional growth of their children. So what does the Montessori philosophy offer that helps us to personalize the 24 children in each class, whose ages range from 3 years old to 6 years old in every class? How is it possible that teachers prepare an environment that take advantage of those tender personalities that are still developing? Montessori teachers are master observers that leads to personalization and interest-based opportunities for each child in every class. Rather than being herded from one activity to another in groups, children in Montessori classes individually pursue what sparks their interest. How does the Montessori philosophy support strong executive functioning? There's the video. If you could go back. It's a video that sweeps across the classroom showing 24 children, most of them working individually on their rugs. They have a 3-hour work period that's uninterrupted, and believe it or not, those children will work for 3 hours on their individual projects, individual lessons, and when one is finished, they roll up their little rug and they put it up and they go get another lesson. And they have the opportunity to practice what's already been introduced to them. Can you look? Okay, don't worry about it. But in doing this, they support the characteristics of self-control, and we have found in our 5 years at the Early Childhood Center, that developing that self-control is the biggest gift that we can give our children and to the schools who will later inherit our children. What are those characteristics of self-control? It's the love of work, and if you could see this video, you would see that, but just believe me. Love of work. Concentration, that is huge, developing concentration. Developing self-discipline and sociability, and if you teach big kids, you know that's important. Montessori is not new, but it is tried and true. And teachers who are trained in their Montessori training as observers, they utilize what is the very essence of current brain research and application in the field, and preparing children for the future in college and careers. And most importantly, I think for us at that age, infusing them with the characteristics of good citizenship that will serve them throughout their lives. Okay, stay there. That's good. This is just some of our data. At the Early Childhood Center, our aim is to give children 2 full years of preschool before they enter 5K kindergarten, thereby taking advantage of at least 2 of the years when the brain is rapidly developing synapses. What a person learns during the years from birth to 4 is, not something that's just learned. It's a part of their developing brain. We use numerous assessments at the ECC, but the one I'm sharing with you today shows the highlights of our experience with starting with 3-year-olds who come to school all day and looking at children who've had 2 years of preschool versus 1 year of preschool before they start 5-year-old kindergarten. This slide, no, stay there, that's good. This slide is the data from the end of last year, from the administration of the Dial 3, which is a screener. It measures the areas of concepts, language, and motor development. But for our purposes today, we're going to look at the concepts and the language. If you look at the first table, that shows results from children who have had 2 years of preschool before entering 5K. The average Dial score was at the 41st percentile, which means their skills were better than just 41% of 3-year-olds. At the end of 4K, 2 years later, the same students had an average score of at the 71st percentile, which means they scored higher than 71% of their same-aged peers on Dial 3. As you can see, there's a significant gain in their pre-test and post-test. The second table shows data from children who only came their 4K year, giving them only 1 year of preschool. And as you can see, they had gains, but they weren't as significant. Dial 3 is just one measure, and it does not measure those 21st century skills that we're here to talk about, what Dr. Montessori in her day called the human tendencies. However, these skills, these same 21st century soft skills, are embedded in the Montessori philosophy and in all the lessons that the children will come to master during their years in that learning environment. We are participating in a longitudinal study being conducted by the Riley Institute in comparing children in Montessori and like children in a more traditional setting. The study will measure those all-important soft skills, and we're looking forward to the results in a few years. But I can tell you just from my own observations, having been in early childhood education for 37 years, that what we are seeing in our children, in their ability to concentrate, make choices, really stick to something. Just from my anecdotal records, I can tell you that it is different. And the last one. Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we wrap everything we do around our purpose, which is to prepare a learning environment that nurtures the whole child while building a partnership with families and the community. What is one of my very favorite things that happens at the Early Childhood Center, and I can't take any credit for it, is our parent engagement program called PALS. PALS is an acronym that stands for something that none of us can remember anymore. But it has become a brand name that embodies the partnership that we hoped to build when we first started our school. PALS originally met one day a month. Parents and teachers, parents and school personnel working together. But what happened surprised us all. It has become so popular that in order to have a more intimate gathering that we had hoped for, we had to start meeting 5 days a week. And honestly, those 5 days a week, the crowd is often more than what you would call intimate. There's actually been an increase of over 400% in parent involvement since we've opened the Early Childhood Center, and we're still maintaining those, thank you, still maintaining those levels of engagement. What are the structures that make PALS so meaningful that so many families, not just parents and guardians, but grandparents, and we even have aunts and uncles who will come to take part in it? What are those structures that make it something that they keep coming back for? They do three things. One is a social emotional study development time with just the parents or the adults that are there. This year and last year, they've been studying the 7 habits of highly effective families. They actually are willing to do book studies. That's what they come for. The second structure is the educational development part that our instructional coach talks about. We've been focusing this year, or they've been focusing on 21st century skills. And then there's a family literacy activity where the parents get to go out to the classroom, get their child, and bring them back to the learning room. And they do a literacy activity together, and then they have a book that they get to take for their home libraries. Families in the community love PALS and requested that it grow beyond the walls of the Early Childhood Center. Our sister school, Sandhills Primary School, has also begun PALS meetings. They too have had to increase the number of days they meet in order to meet the family interest. The brand recognition that was created through this purposeful and meaningful content and personal relationships between staff and families and family to family have played a strong role in the continuing growth of PALS in Lexington 4. It's our hope that these young families continue to be engaged in the education of their young children all the years they're in school. Another aspect of the Early Childhood Center is that it serves as the home for our adult education partnership with Lexington District 2. GED classes, ESOL classes meet at the Early Childhood Center and also have child care for their children who are not yet 3 and coming to our side of the building. We've really found we found nothing bad about this partnership. It is all good. We've had many opportunities where we've been talking with a parent who's come in for a conference about their very little person at school, and in talking with them, we learned that they may not have finished their high school diploma, might be in need of getting work keys, maybe they don't speak English very well. And we've all put our arm around somebody and walked them down to adult education within the same building and turned them over to the caring people down there who get them started on their way to completing their education or learning English, and thereby making them all more involved parents and better citizens. Finally, I'd really like to thank Transform South Carolina for including South Early Childhood in this initiative. You know and value what some others have not. These earliest years are vital to the future of our state and the citizens who will lead us and look after us in the decades to come. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Linda. As you can see, they're doing a great job at the Lexington 4 Early Childhood Center, and you need to go visit sometimes. Next, we're going to move on to the elementary level, and I've got the Twitter king who's going to present today, Josh Patterson. If you are on Twitter, and you need to be, because there's all kind of stuff about what's going on great in schools and what's going on great with these individual schools as well as others that are represented here today. But Josh Patterson is the principal at Oakland Elementary School. It's located in Spartanburg School District 2, and they have about 630 students in 4K through 4th grade. They have a very diverse student population. About 47% of their students receive free or reduced lunch, and they are focused on inquiry and project-based learning at the core of their program, and they were named a Whole Child Award School by the South Carolina ASCD. For you business people, that's the Association of Supervision and Curriculum Development. In the area of challenged for the school's emphasis on project-based learning in 2013. So instead of giving the rest of his presentation, I'll let Josh talk.
Good morning. Again, my name is Josh Patterson. I'm very honored to be here, very privileged to be here to represent Oakland. I am the principal, and I feel very honored to be serving as their lead learner. This truly has been a collaborative effort for all of us at Oakland, but I feel like I would be greatly remiss if I didn't take the opportunity just to give a few thanks. Very thankful for Peggy and Betty and Pam, Mike and Jim, the entire TransformSC steering committee, as well as for Summer and Brittany, just in their correspondence and help in arranging these opportunities. I'm also very thankful for our PBL Action team, specifically my co-chairs, Bonnie Corbett and Allison Perrin. And finally, before getting into the specifics of our school story, I must acknowledge several people who have been directly supportive at our building level and district level. My superintendent, assistant superintendent, and director of elementary education, Dr. Scott Mercer, Dr. Angela Hinton, and Mrs. Kim Ashby, as well as many, many members of our district office and our board, our school board. And finally, I must acknowledge my right hand and assistant principal, Gina Skinner, as well as our school's instructional coaches have been vital to this effort, our wonderful staff and faculty, our involved parents as well. So this truly this is not my story, this is our story. This is just a part of the work that we've been able to do in a very short period of time, and excited just to be able to share with you today. The first point that I want to make to this time is really the idea of protect and provide. It seems kind of simple, but when you're rolling out a new initiative, something that's different and challenging and a lot of questions about it, this has really kind of become a mantra for leadership at our school. What do I mean by protect and to provide? Well, to provide, we have to make sure that we provide our teachers time. Our teachers must have time just to process, time to reflect, time to implement these strategies. Taking on a transformation like this is not an easy task. So we've built in time throughout the year to provide for subs, for teachers to be able to planning as a group to implement these units that they have planned, to work on their formative assessment, to work on their weekly, daily plans, to work on all those 8 essentials that project-based learning calls for. Also, just to repurpose our monies and our support. This hasn't required a lot of new additional things in terms of funding, but it has required that we're just mindful of where that money goes. Also, giving the teachers the support they need to provide them with that. That means our instructional staff. That means that they may need modeling lessons or co-teaching, just supporting those efforts in the classroom. We do not make excuses. We get it done. We figure out a way to make it happen. It's not always easy, but our teachers understand that, and they understand our mission. Our goal, our motto at Oakland is to follow your own star to make success happen. And we live and breathe that through every teacher, every student. We all understand that we're working to make success happen. So what does protection mean? Whenever also you're rolling out something new and innovative and different, you have to protect the goal and the mission. And sometimes this means, as the leader, I'm communicating our achievements, I'm communicating our strides and our efforts, making sure that our parents understand the work that we're trying to do. And getting out there just like this in collaboration and networking with people to build this effort. So protecting. We're being very transparent with our parents about what we want to do and why we're doing this so that they completely understand our efforts. And the next idea is basically creating a culture of yes. This doesn't mean that everything is permissible and everything is allowed. It means that we're going to work to make it happen. Permission to take risks. It's really difficult. 3 years ago when I started at Oakland, it was traditional format. The school did really well in terms of achievement scores, but it was very traditional in its format. So when I came, the teachers began to ask, okay, so what do you want? What do you expect from us? As we write our lesson plans, where's the form? Where is the form? I'm sorry, I'm not giving you a form. I want you to see I want to understand what you're already doing, and I want to be able to fill in the gaps and help build these bridges. That was taking risks. That was very difficult. That was a struggle for our teachers who were very systematic. They had an approach. Everything, though, was taught in isolation, in good intention, but it was all taught in isolation. So this developing a growth mindset, we're not there. We won't be there in 10 years. We're definitely not there in 3 years. But it's developing the growth mindset that we're constantly growing, constantly improving. This is a message that I also communicate to our parents and to our students. And our teachers communicate this in the classrooms too. Basically through working through STEM activities, they encourage our students that there's always a challenge. You're always going to grow to improve. These are all things as educators we know well, but a lot of times I don't think we do enough time of communicating these things to our students and our parents. So building a growth mindset. Project-based learning is not a program. It is not a program. It is not a program. I really feel like I just have to emphasize that even as we're meeting with schools and talking with schools about this effort. Schools, again, like my teachers 3 years ago, where's the form? There's not a form. You have to build this culture of inquiry, of looking closely, of making observations, of taking risks, of writing, connecting these pieces of discipline in one context. It's real world problems. In your work as business people, as government liaison officials, as educators, your work is not math, science, social studies, literacy. It's not that way. It's all integrated. This is what we've tried to embrace at Oakland. This is a journey. This whole growth mindset is a journey. And it's not about the destination. It's not about where we will be. It's about understanding our journey. It's about moving everyone in the same direction. It's about me as the leader giving the freedom to say, okay, third grade, you're struggling with this a little bit. You're struggling in understanding how to put all this together, but that's okay. You're struggling and you're moving. First grade, they're off and running. They got it. They understand it. They're moving. Everybody, though, is moving in the same direction. So that's part of this journey, too, is being okay with that. Because the teachers write it, they create it with the support of our district instructional staff and team, as well as my own instructional coaches. They own it. My teachers own the curriculum. They own the instruction, the planning that they're doing. And this is being played out in the classroom. As we talk about communicating successes and sharing experiences, now we're at the place where we're able to talk about these things with other educators. Educators are asking these questions, these hard questions to us, and it's helping us to define who we are, to strengthen who we are. This is part of this whole work. It's good. Now we feel like we have our instructional core in place, and we're doing those things to support our core, to strengthen our core, and to really engage in not just the instructional project-based, inquiry-based, but to support the whole child experience at Oakland. To provide you some of our journey highlights, our journey began essentially with this effort in 2012 in the fall. Just a lot of reading, a lot of time and change in education, not even understanding what tests, what standards, what direction we're going in terms of our standards. But just understanding that it doesn't really matter what the standards are as long as we are invested in those strong instructional practices that bring about student growth. We can teach to any standards. Thinking about the 4 C's, helping my teachers to understand to identify those in their lesson planning, helping them to identify them when they're working with students. Where are opportunities for collaboration, for communication, for creativity and critical thinking? Those are the skills that our business leaders are saying, they're communicating to us. We can teach them the technical skills when they get to us. We need you to teach them problem solving. We need you to teach them how to think creatively and critically about things that they're doing. We need you to help them understand how to communicate their thinking. So that's what we do. We build a strong foundation of the basic disciplines, and then we seek out every opportunity we can to build this around the 4 C's. A focus that is content, not isolated in the disciplines, helping students make connections between the things that they're learning. This is so important. Our students have to understand these connections in their learning. If they don't understand it, then it's just rote memorization, and then it's forgotten a week later. We want them deep learning, deep enduring understanding of what they're learning and how it applies. This also began as we looked at performance tasks. We began to think, how are we going to prepare our students to be successful on performance tasks? This was kind of a new concept for us. So we engaged in a partnership with Dawn Mitchell of the Spartanburg Writing Project to help us do this and to help us establish a framework for working through our units of project-based learning. In 2013, we gave a greater emphasis on inquiry and project-based learning. We helped our teachers to connect to strategies such as those found in A Place for Wonder. Georgia Hurd's text is a great, simple, friendly, educator-friendly text for just implementing strategies of inquiry, A Place for Wonder. And also believing in that field of dreams philosophy, if you build it, they will come. We sought out opportunities in our building. Where can we build something physical for our students and our teachers to go to kind of embrace this idea of inquiry and close observation and critical thinking? Well, we designed a Wonder Room. We designed a place for students to collaborate with one another, to explore, to tinker and to make, and to engage in these STEM activities. So a literal place that the teachers could take them to, our students to. Teachers early on described this place as almost magical. Students knew that when they were going to the Wonder Room, something wonderful and awesome was going to happen. So that was the expectation that we created for that place. We also began to look for other places throughout our building and area where we could create these places of wonder. Then last year and currently, we have implemented school-wide, year-round implementation of project-based learning units. We learn by doing. Just like our students, we learn by doing. We need these concepts to be hands-on. We need to meet them where they are, whether that's concrete or abstract or pictorial. We need to meet them where they are. We learn by doing, and our teachers have learned by doing. They understand curriculum and integration and these strategies that we have spoken so much about. They understand how all this is connected. They understand how to use data to drive their instruction, and these are areas that we continue to work on today. My second grader, I asked her recently, I said, I have 4 children and 3 of them attend school with me. But I asked my second grader, the oldest, I said, Adri, what is it about project-based learning? What is it that you like? Why, what is it about what you're doing at school? And she said, I get to create and I get choice. Create and choice. It sounds really simple, but when we try to implement this in a traditional framework, it's almost impossible. Create and choice. So we need to provide our students, all of them, the opportunity to create and make and explore and give them choice. This is how they're born. This is who they are when they begin with us in life. So why do we work against that? We need to help build and nurture and foster this curiosity. And as this year we have continued to look for ways to integrate technology and components of STEM within our units. Lastly, just looking at some of our early results, our teachers are commenting that the learning is sticking. That's important. We don't spend a lot of time reteaching as much as we used to because these concepts are sticking from year to year. And lastly, our small efforts, we started small, a few strategies, an exciting room, and the permission to take risks. This is something everyone can do. All leaders can do this. We can start small, we can take risks, and we can give some permission to do some things that are outside the box. So I encourage you to start small and to build a culture and environment that every child and parent wants to belong to. So in my efforts to take you to this place, I have provided a video that hopefully captures some of what I've discussed today. As you watch, I hope you enjoy and are inspired to build your own similar place of wonder.
Oakland Elementary School, nestled in the northwest region of South Carolina, is located in Spartanburg County School District 2. Built in 2003, Oakland serves a diverse population of students in grades pre-K through 4th grade. In addition to a variety of after-school clubs, field trip opportunities, and community and family events, the core of our instructional focus lies in our efforts to engage students through meaningful real-world experiences. With the implementation of our state standards, Oakland Elementary School has embraced inquiry and project-based learning as the most appropriate model for engaged learning in preparation for 21st century skills. Project-based learning promotes a cross-curricular emphasis and presents an expanded rather than narrow view of subject matter, ensuring that all students are engaged. When engaged in PBL, students learn to think critically, solve problems, work collaboratively, and create presentations. This approach to learning motivates students to gain knowledge, giving them the chance to apply acquired skills to personally relevant and real-world situations. Since an inquiry-based model is not simply a technique or instructional practice, students are provided the opportunity to investigate, discover, and explore the world around them. Since questions promote learning, at Oakland we embrace the idea of growth mindset as FAIL, first attempts in learning. We encourage students to answer questions based on the knowledge they have gained and do not discourage them from guessing when they are uncertain of the correct answer. As educators, utilizing our students' mistakes as opportunities for learning can provide meaningful experiences. Ultimately, when students are appropriately challenged and encouraged within a supportive environment, there are no limits to their potential growth. Encouraging a growth mindset supports our commitment by providing authentic learning experiences that challenge each child to become critical, independent thinkers. Inquiry-based learning levels the playing field for all students by embracing students' innate sense of wonder. Through PBL, students are placed in realistic, contextualized learning environments that bridge the classroom to real-life experiences. As we continue to explore new routes of innovative teaching, one thing is evident. Inquiry-based learning has created a spark, an authentic transformation within our school. Whether second graders are creating public service announcements to advocate for endangered animals, 5K students are producing an informational video on why some leaves change colors, or third graders are conducting an investigation on animal adaptations in our school's Wonder Room, students are learning the standards while engaging in relevant, real-world academic experiences. At Oakland Elementary School, we live out our mission by preparing students for tomorrow's world. An inquiry-based approach provides the necessary context to appropriately challenge today's learners.
Thank you, Josh. As As you can see, a lot's going on exciting at both Oakland and the Early Childhood Center. So now we're going to switch to the middle school. Today we've got Whitmore Park Middle School presenting, and the principal, Judy Beard, is going to tell us a lot about what's going on there and share some of their results as well. They're located in Conway, South Carolina. They serve grades 6 through 8 with 820 students, and they have a 90% poverty rate with about 28% of their students in special education classes or special education experiences. They received a Next Generation Learning Challenge grant in 2012, and they use individualized adaptive digital content to provide every student differentiated instruction. I think you're going to find this really exciting as you look at how they're delivering on the profile of the South Carolina graduate. Judy?
Good morning. It's Monday morning, and I know what everyone's thinking. You're thinking, where did that extra hour of sleep go that we missed? I feel like we need to do a strategy. I feel like we need to get up and do numbered heads together or think, pair, share. But in the interest of time, we'll forge ahead. I want to tell you a little bit about the story of Whitmore Park. It is an ever-evolving story, certainly not finished. One thing we know about change is change takes a long time. This is my 3rd year at Whitmore Park, and the 3rd year is the hardest year in the change process because you really get down to the nitty-gritty details of what needs to be changed in the culture of a school. Our journey started 3 years ago when we, just for some strange reason, applied for an NGLC Gates Foundation grant, and we were awarded. And this was in the summer before I took over the school in the fall. And being a part of that network and having our superintendent allow us to be innovative and remove barriers and give us opportunity to explore and innovate really opened the world to us. Being a part of the Next Generation Learning Challenges Network partnered us with some of the most innovative charter schools in the nation. And as a part of that, we were able to see what was happening all across the United States, but at the same time, try to innovate in a little old public school in Conway, South Carolina, one that had been historically underachieving. And we were the only public school that was awarded grant monies during that grant cycle, which was very daunting. We were networking with people who didn't have schools, hadn't hired their faculties yet, had just come out of these idealistic programs of what education could be, and we were literally building it as we were flying it. So we're in an older factory model building. Some of our building goes back to the 1950s. We're in a historical area of the city of Conway, and so our building is built for the factory model of education. Take children, divide them into little compartments, put them in that little compartment, and keep them there. And that way they're ready to go into a factory. And as we know, the world of work has changed. Let me tell you a little bit first about our students. Our students were born after the year 2000. And you think about our 8th graders getting ready to go to high school. They were born in 2001. And you think about how their world is different from how our world is different. They literally are the digital natives. We also this year have 200 additional students that have been sent to our school due to a realignment of our attendance area. That's another reason why this year is in particularly like first year all over. We have 22 new teachers to our staff this year because of our growth, and 18 of those 22 are going through ADEPT, which the educators in the room know. The deadline is Friday for the ADEPT process. Just a little reminder for your calendars. So in middle school, we have to have a sense of urgency. We have children only for 3 years. We have to not only remediate to close gaps, but we have to accelerate their achievement. So we're in a continuous improvement cycle with our digital natives, and you can imagine what that means for our teachers. I'll never forget the first day that we handed out iPads to our teachers so they could get a head start on our students. And one of my teachers said, "Where's the keyboard?" I knew at that point we really had a lot of professional development that we had to do. And it could not be at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It had to be during the day. So we tried to look at time and how we can flex time, how we can create large blocks of time for our teachers to have time to work with students, and also how we can not do the sit and get with our teachers after school. They have families, they have lives, they're tired, and they're ready to go home. So we do job-embedded professional development. With that sense of urgency, we're looking for people who are ready to be pigs. Let me explain. If you think about breakfast and the chicken and the pig, the chicken makes a contribution, but the pig is really committed. And we are looking for teachers and staff members who are really committed to not just teaching, but to making a difference in the lives of our children. So let me talk to you a little bit about our ICANN model. The ICANN model is an acronym that stands for Individualized Instruction. If we have 25 children in a room, all 25 of them are at a different level academically, and it's impossible for one human teacher to meet all of those needs. And so our philosophy is we will individualize for all of our students using adaptive digital content. The C stands for College and Career Readiness. We work closely with our partnership with Ed Elements and also with our EPIC partners out on the West Coast to have performance-based tasks that our children can complete to prove that they are college and career ready, very similar to project-based learning. The A stands for aspirations. You see, when you're a child of poverty, you have to have hope. And our children have hope. They have big hopes and dreams for what they want to do for their futures. In fact, I think we have a lot of future NFL football players at Whittemore Park. And that's a good dream to have, but they have to connect that work, hard work, goes with aspirations. So we've worked very hard on listening to our students through the Qualia Institute's principles of learning. We want our children to understand the commitment that they have to make to be ready, not only for what they dream in doing, but also that their jobs may change as the future changes. And then we have a network of support. We're very close partners with Coastal Carolina University or Georgetown Technical College, the Raleigh Institute. RAND has been in our building to gather information, as well as the Next Generation Learning Challenge. That's our ICANN model. Now let me break that down for you on what that looks like for on a daily basis. Our schedule. We spend the first 30 minutes of every day working in small, intimate, advisory type groups. All of our teachers are involved in that model. Our exploratory teachers, as well as our academic content teachers, our counselors, everyone has a small group. And that group should not be larger than about 15 students. That's really a place where we build relationships. We advise students who need extra help. We work on digital content during that time, because with all those different levels, if a child's working below grade level, it stands to reason it's going to take them longer to complete a digital content lesson in math or English language arts. So that's a catch-up time for them. But we also are working on the heart during that time. We've worked on teaching our students about the brain. I find it very interesting that as educators, we don't take time to teach children about the brain and how their brains work normally. And so what we've done is we've taught them how to deal with an emotional brain, which really rears itself in middle school, and how to stay in their thinking brain, and how to use the good principles of health and nutrition and sleep to have their brains ready for school every morning. This week we're working on empathy. And as the instructional leader, I've been writing those lessons for our teachers. We scribe those lessons out so that we have quality control throughout the building with the message that we're delivering. We also have 100 minutes a day for English language arts and 100 minutes a day for math, because for children who are significantly working below grade level, they need additional time. We have science and social studies on an A-B schedule of 100 minutes, but our teachers have the opportunity to flex that time as needed. And right now they're doing 50 minutes every day so they can see their students every day because they're getting ready for some assessments that have to be done. And then we have two 50-minute time periods for our exploratory classes, and during that time the entire grade level has common planning, so that allows us to capture 100 minutes a day, 2 days a week for staff development. We have staff development on strategy instruction, but then we also have staff development on technology utilization. The reason we switched to this model is because the world of work is greatly changing. When you look at this pyramid that we all learned in school, you think about Bloom's taxonomy, when we all went through school, it was all about knowledge and facts. That was what children call BG time, before Google. You went to school in BG, didn't you? So now, all you have to do is instant information. You can look everything up on the internet. Teachers are no longer the holders of knowledge, the imparters of knowledge, the sit and get classroom, because kids can find out the answers to anything they want to know immediately. And so what we're trying to do is work higher on Bloom's taxonomy into the creation level and the evaluative level. So children are all responsible for their own individualized learning plans. They set their own pace going through the digital content. So we have a rotational model. That's what's represented by those little dots. Now, don't count the dots because this graph actually has 30 dots. And we don't have classes, for the most part, that are that large. Our classes run about 24, 25. But as you can see from this model, we have one group that works directly with the teacher, and those students are pulled based on where their skill gaps are. We have another group that works on the individual content that is on an iPad or a MacBook, and it is prescriptive and adaptive to what every child needs. And then we have children that work on project-based learning in a collaborative group, or they might be working in collaboration. We love this model because we think it mirrors very closely the world of work. If you go to some of the businesses that we've visited through Transform South Carolina, this is how we see industry doing their work. They're not sitting in rows and taking multiple choice tests to do their jobs. They're working and collaborating and thinking and problem solving and working at their own levels and going to friends for assistance and pulling a group to problem solve together. And so this is our model. In the 3 years that we've done this model, we started out with 6th grade. We started small. I want to echo my friend's comments here. You start small and then you scale out. So we started with 6th grade. This year we've scaled it to 7th and 8th grade. And right now we're working closely in our think tank to figure out how this model would look in our exploratory classes. The exciting thing to me about this is our children are going to mandate change as they go through the system. They're going to change the way we do high schools because of what they've experienced in middle school, and that's exciting to me to see the students have a voice and a say in their learning progression. So, some results for Whittemore Park. We're getting ready to take MAP testing in the next week, but I do want you to know that at winter testing we had gains in all areas, in all grade levels. But I want to talk about some of the soft results that we see that I think really measure a change in the culture. When we started this model, I gave teachers the option, if they didn't buy in, they had the freedom to go to another school, a more affluent area, to work, and everybody 100% signed on that they were on board to stay. So that was a testament to the teachers. They were ready to roll up their sleeves and get to work. We also have higher attendance rates for our students. We were not meeting our attendance goals, and we've met our attendance goals for students and for teachers 2 years in a row. So people are coming to school. We've got to get them in the building if we're going to make progress. We have higher engagement in our classrooms. You would think in a model like that diagram that you saw it would be chaos, but everyone knows their role in each station, and we have higher engagement. We have decreased discipline incidences. So that means our kids are spending more time in class, and a lot of children who are working below grade level have a pattern of missing instruction due to disciplinary issues that you can trace all the way back to kindergarten and 1st grade, not sitting still and listening. So that's how that gap starts. Actually, it starts before they start school. but that's how it manifests itself in school. We have many students, and you're going to hear from one today who's been able to move to a higher level of performance. So we're able to start with wherever the kids are and move them to their next level. We've had many, many visitors to the point that we had to say no more visitors this spring because of the attention that the school has received on a national level. We've had visitors from within our school district, within our state, and from out of state. We actually had a group from Canada that wants to come and visit, but somehow I think they might be wanting to come to play golf too. I'm not sure. And we have been featured in Ed Week. Now, for those educators in the room, imagine having a reporter and a photographer in your school for 3 days straight doing an article on Ed Week. But we were very pleased with how they honored the work that was going on at Whittemore Park. So in closing, in talking about our network, I want to say that isolation is the enemy of innovation. You cannot be an innovator all by yourself. You have to have colleagues to talk to. You have to have people from the outside come and see, because we're so deep in the trenches sometimes, we don't think we're making any progress. And then people come and say, this is really different. You're doing something really different and innovative here. So it's important to have partnerships. Our partnership with our Horry County school colleagues has been valuable. Our model has been scaled up through all of our 10 middle schools. And so when we have meetings, we're able to talk about what's working, what's not working. It's not about the device so much as it's about what you do with the technology that you put in the hands of your students. We are moving towards competency-based learning. We're working very hard through our Transform network and also our NGLC network to see what competency-based learning would look like. That would be anytime, anywhere learning, and not placing children in the grade level just because they're a certain age, but putting them at a level where they can grow to their next level of expectation. The big takeaway, though, through our network is being able to support what we feel is a moral purpose to improve our schools, because that's an economic issue, not just for our community, but also for our state. So I'm very pleased that the business community is represented here today, because this is a moral imperative for the state of South Carolina, that education is doing what our businesses are demanding in the workplace. So that's a snapshot from Whittemore Park. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you today.
Very good. You can see wouldn't you love to work for her. Now is our final school, and I promise you when we get the panel up here, we're going to give you a chance to stand up and stretch a little bit. But now we've got Dr. Melissa Crosby from Cougar New Tech High School, who's going to come and talk about Cougar New Tech, which is located in Colleton County, South Carolina. It was the New Tech High School was established in 2013 as a school within a school, and they had 80 freshmen that year. They've grown by 80 students each year, and their goal is to serve 320 students a year by 2017. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Crosby.
And in true Cougar New Tech fashion, we'll do things a little differently. I have with me two experts on the Cougar New Tech model, and they're going to share to kind of break up the monotony of my voice, because directors can sometimes be quite boring. I brought with me today one of my facilitators at Cougar New Tech and also one of our site trainers, Joshua Cable. Joshua Cable is one of our facilitators, and he teaches in the International Enterprise class at Cougar New Tech. And then we also brought with us today, and you'll have a chance to ask some questions later of her, but one of our student ambassadors for New Tech, Sam Calcutt. Sam Calcutt is one of our pioneers from the 10th grade class in Cougar New Tech, and when she speaks later, you'll understand why she is also an ambassador for Cougar New Tech and Colleton County High School. So thank you very much for having us here today. I just want to say that we would not be standing in front of this audience today without the support of our community, and in particular of some of our leaders. There was a visionary team prior to 2013 that really thought, Colleton County deserves what other counties have. How do we really put that together? And through some work with Furman University and the Riley Institute, and also some of the economic development partnerships, Colleton County was able to secure an I-3 grant for funding to start a new tech high school at Colleton County High School. And part of the rationale for that you'll hear later, but the thing that you need to understand is that we couldn't do it alone. And I know many of you are here today because you're looking for a way to accomplish this. I don't know that I-3 is the way to do it. There are lots of different pathways, but the point is that once we were awarded that grant or notified that we were going to receive that grant, our business community came together in about 3 days over the Thanksgiving holiday and matched funds for that grant. And some of those folks are here with us in the room today, and I just want to applaud them for supporting us in that. So if you will indulge me in that, I would appreciate it. Also, there's no way really to build a school within a school without the support of the leaders of that school. And my principal, Cliff Warren, is here today, and he was an instrumental part of this process early on, and I do want to thank him. We also have our superintendent, Dr. Foster, here today, and other members of our district team, and they are not only instrumental in putting this program together, but also in making sure that we implement it with fidelity, and they're critical to that process. So I thank them for coming today to support us and for really sticking behind us all during the school year. I want to say that one of the things about New Tech that's really unique is that it's not just the tech. A lot of folks look at a new tech school and they think, well, that's really about a one-to-one system. It's students that are being taught by computers. They're in virtual schools and so forth. And while blended learning is an important part of what we do, it's not all that we do. The New Tech model is really an integrative approach. We take content areas such as, in Mr. Cable's case, world geography, and we blend that with IBA 1, which is a business course at the high school level that students take. And through that, we're able to build very rich projects that students are able to take advantage of, and they're able to see themselves in a real-life situation through those projects. And he's going to explain more to you about that shortly. As mentioned, we are growing year by year, so when we started this, we also started small. And I do advocate that. There are options to do whole school conversions, but Colleton County High School, and Mr. Warren is a cautious individual, decided that it would be best if we decided to take this grade by grade. And so what we did was we developed an application process by which 8th graders could apply to our school. And at the time, Mr. Cable and I were the face of Cougar New Tech, and we went down to the middle school to recruit students for our program. Those students had to go through an application process. They were then brought in. Parents were brought in for a meeting. We met with them for approximately an hour and explained to them what the New Tech model would entail and so forth. And then at that point, all of the students for New Tech were chosen in a stratified lottery. It was stratified because we wanted to make sure that students represented a slice of the population for the incoming class. So when you see the things that our students are doing and you ask questions, you're actually looking at, when you look at Sam, you're looking at one of the average students at Cougar New Tech. She's a great student, but all of them are wonderful kids, but they didn't all start in the same place. Colleton County High School is obviously in an impoverished area. 78% of our students are free and reduced lunch. And so it's really important to understand that just like most schools, most high schools that are in situations like ours, a lot of our students report to the high school not ready for high school. Has anybody been in that situation before? Okay. So I just want to paint the picture so that when you hear our data later, it'll really mean something for you. In our first group of students, I want to tell you that 34% of the students that came into Cougar New Tech were not met for writing for pass, and 40% were not met for ELA, 39% for math, 26% for science, 31% for social studies. And I really want to stress that that first 80 that we had, 27% of those students read between a 2nd and a 6th grade level. Now, I don't point that out to say that the middle school's at fault or the elementary school's at fault, but these are the results of 8 or 9 years of an educational system that maybe wasn't exactly designed for that individual student. So when we took on the challenge of developing Cougar New Tech, we really had to think about what is it that we want students to be able to know when they leave Cougar New Tech. Is it all about the content knowledge, or is there a little more? And what we decided is that content knowledge and thinking, while that is a very important part of the high school experience, is not all there is in high school. And so we chose 5 different learning outcomes for our students, and we assess them on those every single day. Content knowledge and thinking makes up 50% of our scoring for our students with their projects, but written communication and oral communication are also really important parts of that, and that makes up 30%, which means that even in a high school math class, our students are reading and writing. Collaboration is also an important part. There's no project-based and problem-based model that does not entail a whole lot of collaboration. So you're going to hear a little bit about that. But it's very important to us that diverse teams of students are able to develop those interpersonal relationships that they're able to take to the next level, to college and career. And then the big piece, which I think is a hallmark of our culture, is that we do score students on agency. Agency is their ability to take an obstacle and use that obstacle to grow and develop. So we spend a lot of time with students on personal reflection. We do quite a bit of peer review. We ask students to review their own work. We work in small workshops for that. We work in individual one-on-one sessions with students. But our facilitators, our model looks much like the model that was just shown for middle school. You may have a small workshop taking place in one classroom, and over on one side you may have students doing workshops for one another. There are lots of different things going on, but every student has a different need, and every student's need is met in a different way. So as you can imagine, when we were thinking about how we were going to put these 5 learning outcomes together, we really had to wrap our brain around what type of student would be ready to take on this challenge. And in order to do that, we had to make a purposeful assessment of our culture. And as you might imagine, in a depressed community, culture is often either the key or the killer for student success. So I'm going to let Sam come up and give you a little bit of information about our culture.
Hello again, I'm Samantha Calcutt, and I'm sorry if I talk a little bit fast. I had a whole cup of coffee this morning. So we are based on trust, respect, and responsibility, and each student in Cougar New Tech gets one of these, which you will see on the board if they flip the screen. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. We all have trust cards, and these on the trust cards, actually, my class put down what they thought trust, respect, and responsibility meant. And so our culture is based on trust, respect, and responsibility. It's what the teachers expect. It's what the dean expects. It's what our students expect of each other. And so this actually influences a positive culture within New Tech. And so, it also pushes us to have ownership of our own learning. So let's say I don't know how to do a math equation. I can go to one of my students or my friends, and I can say, hey, I need help on this. And my friend will say, okay, I can help you with this aspect. And then he goes, I don't know how to do this. You can go to the teacher. And so I have to have ownership of my own learning. Also, we also, as Dr. Crosby said, we work on projects, and it's projects and problem-based learning. And this requires us to work in groups. Now, in the workplace, you know that you may not always be put in groups that you particularly like, that you don't know everyone, and so this pushes us to learn how to work with others and learn how to push through obstacles within that group. Also, we create group contracts within these groups. These group contracts allow us to essentially fire people who are not pulling their work. So when students come to New Tech, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm scared of these group projects. Like, what's going to go on? Like, what if I get stuck with a terrible group and I have to end up doing all the work? Well, that's not existent in New Tech, because literally we can fire you out the group and make you do your own project if you're not pulling your work. Now, there's steps for firing. We can't just say you didn't do this part of your project, you're out of the group. I mean, we have to do a verbal warning. We have to write it down. We go and consult the facilitators, and then we can fire them. But we also come up, yeah. I never had to kick anyone out of my group, but it's been done. They're a little bit scared of doing the projects on their own because they are such big projects, and they're like, no, please no. But we have a unique identity, the learning outcomes, the trust that the teachers instill in us, it makes us unique and it makes us different, and it really just pushes the students to want to do well, because when the facilitators raise the bar, the students want to reach that bar. They want the bar higher. When the facilitators put the bar higher, you want to reach the bar higher, and they're forcing us to climb. And one of the other big things within our school is fights, vandalism, graffiti, theft, all those bad things are virtually non-existent. We have students who came in to New Tech getting referrals every other day, being sent out for OSS, ISS, being late to class. And when you get this trust card taken for those things, when you feel like you've disappointed your peers, your teachers, it's pushed students to actually get to class on time. We really do not have any other disciplinary issues anymore in New Tech because of the trust that the teachers have instilled in us, and because the peers are expecting more out of their peers. I know for a fact that our staff has a vision for us. I actually saw where they had drawn out on this board a track for us, how they were going to track us toward college, what roadblocks they might face, what else they may do to help us. And also they are empowered to make rules, activities for us. And I know that our students, we have a Director's Advisory Council, or DAC for short, and they help Dr. Crosby with maybe some things that she thinks, what's going on within the school, what do the students think? And they're kind of like our student council. They go and they help her what the students think. And they also, whenever I say they plan activities, we hit this thing and we call it Rocktober, or the October slump. And it's kind of whenever the honeymoon with New Tech is over. You're no longer like, oh, this is a new thing, this is great. And then you're like, oh gosh, I have to do work. And and you kind of hit this wall. And they decided that since everyone's kind of in this slump, we're all kind of feeling down, we needed to do something. And so our Director's Advisory Council created what we call Trust Day. And it's pretty much, we arranged into teams. I was on Mr. Cable's team, actually. And we got into teams and we went outside, we played team building activities like the human knot, if you ever heard of that. We played kickball, we played a bunch of different games. It was just kind of a relaxed day to get us kind of back into the groove. My team ended up winning, whoop whoop. But, I mean, besides getting pizza next year, it's not really much. But it really is, they really do care about us. They really do want us to succeed. I'm actually going to read this straight off of my little paper because I don't want to mess this up. We take a survey twice a year, and it surveys all the students, and it surveys our culture within New Tech. And so 97% of the students feel as if they contribute positively to their school. 92% feel as if they are encouraged to be a strong learner, and 99% have learned to work well with others. 91% feel as students who break the rules can earn their trust back from their peers and teachers. 97% of the students feel as if teachers treat them with respect. 96% feel teachers recognize their effort. And 97% feel there's at least one staff member in Cougar New Tech that they could go to for help. So I think that's just, it kind of overall shows that our culture, the students they feel safe, they feel supported, and they're positively influenced. And as a student, I know that having the staffers and the dean there to push me, I keep reaching bars that I never thought I could reach on my own. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Josh Cable, as Dr. Crosby introduced me a little bit earlier. I'm a facilitator at Cougar New Tech, and I'm here to talk about teaching that engages. And I want to start with giving you a little bit of background about myself and my time at Colleton County High School. New Tech came to me at just the right time. I was just finishing up my third year of teaching. As many of you know, year number 3 is that year that tends to make or break teachers. If you're going to leave the profession, it's going to be after year number 3. And I was really kind of skating around that. I was really thinking about that. I was burned out. At the time, Dr. Crosby was a math teacher in our building, and we'd have conversations about, what do I want to do with my career? How do I want to move forward? And New Tech came at just the right time where it was a life preserver. I really felt I was drowning in my traditionalness. I came from an educational system not that long ago, but in the grand scheme of change, an eternity ago, where I thrived in the traditional system. I was very good at memorizing facts. I was very good at social studies content. I loved it, which made me want to become a social studies teacher. And when I took to the classroom, I had ideas of what I thought was doing that well, but I was still sort of just being the sage on the stage, and I was boring my audience. I was preparing kids to be successful in Jeopardy, but unfortunately, Ken Jennings was not in my class, so there's not a whole lot of potential for that. So luckily, New Tech came at just the right time. We were able to, it actually came to us by receiving a phone call from our superintendent asking us to pack up the car and head up to North Carolina, to Anson, North Carolina. So we took a trip, and we went up there with open minds. I'm always a little skeptical, so I think I was a good critic of the program. So we got to Anson. Instantly as we walked in the door, we saw something was different. We saw kids taking the lead with their own learning. We saw kids collaborating. We had a hard time finding the teacher in the room sometimes because the teacher was in the trenches with the kids, helping them work on individual needs, helping them move their project along. And to some people it may sound scary, oh, you couldn't find the teacher, but it was because they were so ingrained in their work. There was no misbehaving going on the way you would imagine a classroom with no teacher. You would think, oh, there's paper airplanes and kids are doing who knows what. But that wasn't the case at all. The kids were all actively digging in and taking part in what they needed to do. And they were actually working on a project at that time where they were bringing a health fair to their community. I saw a lot of parallels in Anson that you see in a lot of rural areas in general. I come from rural Pennsylvania, and it's very similar to rural South Carolina. Poverty is poverty. Economic development is economic development. So we wanted to make sure our kids were being prepared for that, and we're in an area where we sorely need that. In our community, our kids are going to be the future leaders, and we want to make sure we're preparing them with critical thinking, with problem solving and analysis. We want to make sure they can do those things and not just memorize facts. I had been teaching facts for 3 years, and I don't know how many lives have actually bettered by doing that. A few kids passed tests, but I want to make sure they can go forward and get a career and improve our community through that aspect. I saw that in Anson. I saw kids taking part in their community. I saw kids trying to improve things, and I knew this is what we had to do. I was still a little skeptical at first because I'd only been there for 45 minutes to an hour on the first trip. But after a few more trips, I really realized that these kids are doing something special, these schools are doing something special, and we need to be part of that. I need to be part of that to save myself and save my community. So that brings us to sort of how PBL works. A lot of schools do projects, and traditionally projects tend to be the teacher front-loads all the material, they give you all the information you need, and then the kid makes a diorama or a poster sort of just reviewing whatever they learned during that time frame. What I saw at Anson was totally different, and what we model is totally different. In PBL learning, kids learn from the project. They don't learn before the project, they learn while doing. For us, everything starts with a driving question. A project starts off with an entry document. Sometimes it's a video, sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a memo from our business partners requesting student services. So what happens with this entry document? Students analyze it, sometimes individually, sometimes as a team, and the driving question is what they create. What am I being asked to do? So when I was preparing today to come here, I was thinking about, my driving question is, what does the CNT team need to do to properly explain the New Tech model to transform South Carolina? So I started thinking in terms of PBL. So our kids are given a task, and they're asked to define that task. It's sort of a mental breakdown where they, not the bad kind of mental breakdown, but the kind where they break down the problem and figure out how to attack it. So once they have created the driving question, they know what the end product is going to be. They know what they need to do. They then analyze the problem and create a list of knows and need to knows. What do I already know about the topic, and what new information do I need to learn? And for me as a facilitator, the need to know is one of the most important things. What the kids need to know is my homework. It's telling me what I have to do. I love when kids give me homework. I would have never thought that 13 years ago when I was a high school student I would crave homework. But what I love about inquiry-based learning is that when kids ask questions and I can't answer them immediately, because that means they're doing some deeper thinking. We're going to have deeper learning taking place. So we create a list of knows and need to knows. We typically use a Google Doc, and kids can update it every day as the class goes on, as the project goes on. They're able to just update those things. My co-facilitators and I, we check them daily, and our goal is to move as many need to knows from that column to the know column, because that's our sort of visual representation of learning. We can see what they're learning as the project goes along. From there, all of those need to knows are based on a real world problem. Sometimes it's conceptual, but it's always something they would face in the real world. It's always something they're going to be asked to do. And for ninth graders, for the first time experiencing that, it's really interesting because almost every time, whether it be our class of 2015 or our class of 2016, 17, our kids have always exceeded our expectations. As facilitators, we design these projects. We have an endpoint in mind. but the kids take amazing routes to get there. They think of things we didn't think of. So it's really a testament to how important it is to have new minds innovating, new minds working on real problems. And to me, that's what engagement looks like. You can explain to students it's important to understand slope, because one day you might build a fence in your backyard, and it's important to understand the slope of your fence. But to actually give them something to get their hands on and build, get their hands on and do, is really important for us. The example I think of locally, in our community, we're very based on our natural resources. So a project we did early on with the students, I teach a class, geography mixed with integrated business applications. So our students work on geography and they work on Microsoft Office products at the same time. Our first intro to that with our students was to get them involved in a South Carolina beach sweep and river cleanup. It just happens to fall perfectly every year at the beginning of the school year. And what we noticed, we had a real problem in our community. All across the state, people are cleaning up beaches, cleaning up rivers, and every year they post an Excel spreadsheet explaining how many volunteers came to each site. And what we noticed for Colleton County, we had the lowest participation in the state for river and beach cleanup. The things that define our county, we call ourselves the ACE Basin to highlight our rivers. We love Edisto Beach. And the things we really take pride in our community were the things that nobody was coming to clean up and maintain. So that was the problem for our students. They had to figure out a media campaign to get those things going. And they've actually created brochures that have been distributed at our open house and parent nights that people actually got their hands on. So it's really great to see the relevance. They understand the importance of taking care of their community and something they can get their hands on and visit on a daily basis. We always start with the end in mind. That kind of goes back to the problem statement, the driving question. It's very common in education, and I want to encourage you that don't think PBL is not all that different. Sometimes people are afraid of change, but a series of small changes is how you get there. So it was very comforting to all of us as teachers when we made the transition to PBL facilitators. We weren't having to reinvent the wheel. We just had to reconceptualize some of the things we're already doing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes students go off and projects always take on their own lives. Students sort of expand and explore new avenues. So it gives us homework. And sometimes students don't right away find the things you want them to find. It's sort of one of the frustrating things when you first come from a traditional setting where I'm going to stand there with a PowerPoint and give them the 10 points they need to know. And I'm going to give them a test on Friday, and they're going to know those 10 points. And if they don't know those 10 points, well, they better study them before the final. In PBL, that's not the case. What's beautiful about it is the knows and need to knows. We benchmark along the way. Before we move on to the next component in the project, we make sure the first component's done properly. So we're not doing the whole project in one go. We're doing components throughout the way. So it's more manageable. And that way, if we see any misconceptions, we can correct them through benchmark testing, through formative assessments. And then the final presentation is the summation of all that work. So along the way, there's scaffolding, there's workshops. We still have the opportunity to sort of get in front of the classroom and quote unquote teach the way we did in a traditional classroom. But I would say that I've gone from the traditional setting where I was in front of the class teaching 80% of the time to about the exact opposite. About 20% of the time I'm leading workshops, conducting scaffolding activities, working one-on-one with students. So my job has really changed in that aspect where I've gone from the sage on the stage to the sort of facilitator of knowledge and information and just helping through the working process. And it's been a change for the better. One of the last things that come into play in the project is peer review is essential. Self-assessment is essential. Before anything goes to final presentation, students have the opportunity to look over their own work, they self-assess, they leverage the information of their peers. One of the most empowering things as a facilitator is when you can walk into a room and you see small groups working together and they're giving each other good feedback, actionable feedback. It's great to see a kid grab a rubric and just start taking notes on it, and they're working with each other to help each other learn and grow. It's been one of the most rewarding parts of this whole process for me, is seeing them take so much interest and investment in their learning that they're teaching each other and supporting each other in those endeavors. And finally, the product is always a real-world product. They're producing something that is going to be used by the school, the community, something a professional in that field would use. And it really gives them a sense of understanding of, hey, I made this. I see some of our business partners in the audience today. They've been kind enough to allow our kids to do some logo design in our community. It's been fantastic because the kids are proud of that. I've seen kids happy with a math worksheet. I've seen kids extremely proud of the product they've produced for a math class and an art class that's allowed them to produce company logos for their own community. And I think that's the sort of inspiration that our young people need. I want our kids to go out and continue their education, and I want them to come back and make Walterboro and Colleton County a better place, because we're building those skills where that can happen. We're building the sort of engagement where that can happen. So I really have come a complete 180 in my 5 years in education in Colleton County, and just feel really strongly about how PBL is making a huge impact through student engagement. Thank you.
So as we mentioned, this is our second year in operation, so we were able to collect some data on students other than the cultural data that was provided to you earlier. And one of the things that we really were concerned about when we went in, but we had the support of our superintendent and the building principal, so we knew, but anytime you implement change, you can typically expect a dip in your performance. And we were anticipating a dip in our end of course test scores, because let's face facts, we were all teaching under a model that we were very unfamiliar with. We were charting new territory. The state was changing standards midstream, or maybe not. You know, so we were a little unsure of where we were going to go. And so I do want to point out a couple of things. We compared our data, and this is one of the things that Furman is doing with our school. We compared our data inside of New Tech with the data of the high school as a whole. And unfortunately, last year during our first year, about midway through the school year, we actually in New Tech lost our English teacher about halfway through. And so we were fortunate enough to be able to borrow a facilitator who had not been fully trained to come in and help us out with that, but we did expect a dip. Colleton County High School's English 1 end of course exam scores for the year for the main high school were 59.2% passing. And remember, 40% of our students came to us not ready for high school English. Cougar New Tech, even though we lost our facilitator halfway through the year and we limped through for the rest of the year on a borrowed facilitator, we had 59.6% without having a full-time instructor. So even though those aren't the scores we wanted, we really wanted to see something much higher. We're just proud of the fact that we kept our heads above water, because we truly did expect to see a dip. In our Biology 1, the high school scored 63.4% passage rate. Cougar New Tech students 78.4%. So in the first year, instead of dipping, we outstripped by almost 16%. So we were very proud of those results. And then for Algebra 1, the high school was at 66% and we were at 79%. So we really feel like we're going to gain ground every year, and we're definitely moving in the direction that we need to move in for this. And we haven't lost an English facilitator halfway through the year, so we expect those English results to really step up. One of the other pieces, remember I said that people think about the technology as, oh, this is a new tech school, so this is all about technology. It is true that our students are one-to-one. Every student does have a laptop. Every student uses that laptop, and they're a part of a system in that, but it is the tool, it's not the focus. We do have quality instructors in every single classroom. We have 2, in fact, in each classroom. That means that some of our classes are very large. Some of our, we have double capacity. We took classrooms in almost a brand new building, and we took a wall out, and we built these very large studio classrooms for our students to function in. We also took the regular student desk and we moved those to another part of the building. So our students have flexible seating. They're able to move those around. They can work individually. They can work in small groups. They can work in large groups for whole group discussions and so forth. All of our computers are web-enabled. We're wireless, as a lot of schools are these days, but our students are using that collaborative learning technology, which we use Echo as our system, in order to coordinate. Everything is loaded every day. We even had a student last year that during the last 3 weeks of school, because of situations beyond his control, was removed from his home, and he was sent to a shelter for a while, and we were able to service that student on a hardship because we were able to Skype with that student and work with him in the classroom. So it was, although he was not physically able to sit with us, he was still able to participate in everything that we did for that last little bit of time until they were able to find him a home. So we were very thankful for that. Our facilitators have done a great deal of training on how to utilize the technology in the highest possible manner. So it's not just a matter of scanning the old worksheets, loading them up on the web, and then having students do that. That's a very low use of technology. You know, somebody said you don't like the word program. I don't like the word program either, because this is not a program. We couldn't have become a new tech school and just simply gone to the network and downloaded a lot of projects and just implemented those across the board. These folks have designed these projects, and they have worked so hard to make them rich and meaningful. They're designed specifically to meet the needs of those students based upon their knows and need to knows, and that technology is what's enabled them to do that. So in closing on that, I just want to share with you, we do have a Facebook page for Cougar New Tech. You're welcome to join us there, like us, see what we've been up to. All of our projects are featured there. We have a web page as well, and then the contact information is there for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As you can see, there's a lot of great stuff going on in these schools, but not just in these schools. There are 37 schools in 19 districts in the TransformSC network, about which we are familiar and with whom we work on a regular basis. But there are a whole lot of other schools across the state that have not become an official part of the network at TransformSC, but that are doing really good things. So we want you to hear about the rest of those this afternoon, the rest of the morning and this afternoon. We've got several sessions designed around other schools that you'll get to hear about. I want to be, in the interest of our panelists who came here today, we're going to shorten our questions to the panel, and I know the panelists will be relieved at that, but we are going to have our panelists come up. I want to first tell you that we are really glad that everybody is here that's on the panel, and I'm going to introduce them as I ask them questions. I'm going to start with the Early Learning Center, who's down here at the far end. And we have with us today Jana Stevenson. Will you raise your hand and wave at everybody? Jana Stevenson. And Amy Stevenson. And then Donna Brown, who's the teacher. As you can imagine, Amy is the parent. So I'm going to start with our student. Jana, what's your favorite work that you do at school?
100 board.
Did you make sure that
100 board.
The 100 board. She likes that a lot. And I'm going to ask you a real quick second question. How do you and your friends solve things when somebody can't get along with somebody else?
Play cars or either fill it up.
Can Mama say that again real quick?
Pistol.
They go to the peace table and they work it out. Very good. Thank you so much. Ms. Stevenson, if you would answer a question for me, what kind of qualities have you seen emerge from your child through these last 3 years at the Early Childhood Center?
Well, you have to consider...
Speak in the microphone for me.
She has been there since she was 3 years old, and she's now 6. So you can imagine the transformation that I've seen in these 3 years, such a developmental time. Jana has learned to choose, to make good choices, and Jana has changed from the timid little 3-year-old going into school, you know, bright-eyed, not knowing what to expect, to gaining a great sense of independence, and she is bright and looking forward to starting first grade now. So we're real proud of the changes that we've seen.
Very good. And I would ask you one other question. What have you learned from her?
Gosh.
Beg your pardon?
We have learned that it's important as a parent to continue what she learns in the school, to bring it home and to read every day, and to see the progress that she is making. It just makes me understand that it is important as a parent that we bring home those things that they're practicing in school and read every day and see the progress that she makes there.
Very good. Thank you. And Ms. Brown, if you could tell us how, I'm going to ask you one question. How is the school now different at the Early Childhood Center than it was before y'all made changes in the culture there?
Well, the culture has changed tremendously. It was hard to change, but we had to give up our control to the children. The children are the ones that are in control of the school, and the fact that they take lunch carts, they do breakfast carts, they clean the rooms, they help each other with their learning, and the teacher is there just as a resource. They're not the bright jewel in the classroom any longer. The children are the ones in control of what's going on in the classroom.
Yeah, very good. Sounds really hard when you first think about it, doesn't it, teachers? But then suddenly, they're doing everything. Not everything.
Not everything.
That's right.
Almost.
All right, I'm going to move to Oakland Elementary. Cece Dardo, is that the way you pronounce your name, Cece? She's in the 4th grade. Cece, tell us what something is that your class has completed this year that you think you'll remember for the rest of your life.
I think I will always remember the action planning class because we got to take home a sheet and thought of an idea to do out of recyclable objects. And I made a birdhouse out of recyclable objects and picked up trash. The lesson I wanted to learn was to always keep our earth clean.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Cece. And just tell us maybe a couple of the 21st century learning skills that you've been able to use this year, and which ones are your favorite ones?
A few of the 21st century skills that my class has participated in this year would be using tablets for tweeting and using Twitter, playing games in stations for reading and math, and writing our class blog using the computer instead of a pencil and paper. And lastly, our class also created an infographics on the computer to practice nonfiction text features completing with instead of completing with the pencil and paper. And that was one of my favorites, the infographic.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the parent, Jennifer Bruce, who is not only the chair of the School Improvement Council, but also the vice president of the PTA. We know that's a lot of work. Ms. Bruce, as a parent, what kinds of concrete changes have you seen in your child's interest and engagement in the learning process at Oakland?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to all the educators that are in the room. You all have such important jobs and you work so hard and you do so many things that are behind the scenes. So as a parent, I thank each and every one of you for everything that you do. As a parent at Oakland, I think one of the main things that I've seen, my child, I have 2 children, one is in 4th grade and one is in the 1st grade. So the 4th grader started and went through kindergarten and 1st grade before the project-based learning really took a foothold in our school. And the change that I've seen in him is just utter excitement and enthusiasm for learning. He cannot get enough of coming to school every day. And I think as a parent, that's what you want, right? I mean, yes, we love our students to get straight A's and bring home perfect report cards, but more than that, we want them to be engaged in learning. And so my son, we have such a dialogue. Our homework situation has changed drastically as a result of PBLs because it's not just, as several of the panelists have said, we're no longer memorizing facts so that we can spit them out on a test. Yes, there's a place for that and we still need to do some of that, but we're having a dialogue, we're conversing about how can he take what he's learned and apply that in a real life situation. And I think project-based learning is so important because they can take the skills that they've learned and apply those, and then they're going to retain what they've learned for longer. And you're going to be able to see that as a teacher, as a student yourself. It's so gratifying to be able to move on the next year and say, wow, I actually remembered that information and I can use that in a different way. So I can't say enough about what our school has done in that regard. I think it's really important as a parent to be involved, particularly in the elementary level, because your child needs to feel empowered. One of the things that we've talked about and Dr. Patterson mentioned is that we don't want to be afraid to fail. And I think project-based learning does a great job of teaching us to make a mistake and then learn from that and take it forward.
Very good, thank you. And this is dangerous when you've got multiple potential pronunciations of someone's name, but our 1st grade teacher, Missy McMahon, or
you
McMahon.
did great. That's
good,
perfect.
Good.
My students just call me Miss Mac.
Good. Okay, Miss Mac. Could you just tell us, what would you tell other teachers who are hesitant to try project-based learning? What would you tell them?
Well, I'll have to share my own story with you because when Dr. Patterson first came to Oakland, I'd been at Oakland the whole time that it had been there. I started my career in District 2, and it was a very traditional school, as he pointed out. And he came in like a ball of dynamite, and we didn't know what was going on, but it turned out to be wonderful. I was very reluctant at first. I said, what, you want us to do what, and how do you want us to do it, and what's it supposed to look like? And it was really hard for me to let go at first of having control over the classroom. And as I began to explore PBL a lot more with the support of our faculty and Dr. Patterson, he's so encouraging. As I began to explore it, I realized that I am a much better teacher when I let the children be the ones who are front and center in the room. They're the ones who are directing their learning. Yes, I am teaching them standards. I'm teaching them things they need to know, but they're choosing the pathway. They're setting out on a course, a journey every day in the classroom, and it just makes them better learners. It makes me a much, much better teacher. I think I have grown tremendously in the past 3 years through PBL. So I would just suggest to teachers to take it slow, take it in small steps, have that growth mindset. You are going to make mistakes. There's going to be roadblocks. You're going to say, what was I thinking when I did that? But more than anything, those children are going to learn and remember what they're doing. I have first graders this year, and they're still talking about the PBLs and the things that they learned in kindergarten, and what they've learned there has carried over to this year, and they're able to apply it. So I know that it's making a difference in the way that they learn.
Very good, thank you. We're going to go to Whitmore Park Middle School now, and Emily, our student. Emily, welcome. Could you tell us just quickly, how is your school different now than it was in past years?
Now our school is more technology focused. Now we have instant access to all information. We have iPads, phones, and MacBooks that we carry around with us all the time. The teachers are we don't have to wait on the teachers to get the information. They just have to help us understand it and know what to do with it. We have more opportunities to advance learning at our own pace. When we're ready, we get to decide when we are ready. We have more projects. We use multimedia to present. We develop websites, slide decks, and word process papers.
Very good, thank you. And her mother, Laurie Wise, could you tell us, did you have concerns when this was being implemented, and just briefly what they were, maybe?
I did have concerns. I have another daughter at the same school, and I was with the technology and the one-on-one devices and all of the digital content that was going to be happening in the classrooms. I was afraid that my children were going to get lost, that the teacher was going to be replaced by this digital content and there would not be as much teaching. And it actually ended up being quite the opposite. The digital content serves as a learning tool for the teachers as well as the students. They get real-time data that they can use to instantly turn around and adjust those assignments to meet the students' needs, whether it be having to go back and repeat something that maybe the child is having trouble with, or if they can accelerate their learning.
Very good, very good. And you notice, despite her concerns and trepidations, both mother and daughter are using their iPads for their notes. It's very good. And the teacher, John Williams, who is a blended learning teacher, I'm going to ask you, what do you think was the hardest challenge for you in implementing it as a teacher?
I have a couple of challenges. I think the first one, since when we started on this journey of personalized learning, I think one of the biggest challenges was trying to figure out how to develop personalized learning pathways for all students with so many ability levels. So we had to just take on this mindset of continuous improvement. I think the other thing particularly is building a culture of self-directed learning and authentic investment of all stakeholders. That was a challenge because many of our kids that were coming, they were not used to education in this manner. They were used to someone standing and delivering the information to them. Well, so when they came, when we started, as Ms. Beard mentioned, we started with 6th grade. We had to train the kids and really breed that into them to understand that's the culture. We want you to be the drivers of your learning. And so those were probably the biggest I would say, challenges to implementing this.
Okay, very good.
plan.
Thank you very much. Now, finally, Cougar New Tech High School, and since we've heard from Samantha and Joshua Cable already, we're going to ask Dr. Calcutt, Dr. Andrew Calcutt, how were you and the other parents in the school involved in the implementation of the New Tech school model?
Well, to just start off with, I want to echo my thanks to all the educators in the room. Good teachers are like good nurses. You cannot be paid enough.
That's right.
Bad teachers are like bad nurses. We need to find a way to hide the bodies. First, if you're not in project-based learning now, do not be afraid. I am old school. I mean, I come from a system, being educated as a surgeon, where it is very almost militaristic. The idea that my daughter was going to take part, and was very excited, as you can tell, into this new thing that was different. First, if you're an educator who's not doing it, do not be afraid. If you're a parent in here, as a teacher, incorporate your parents. First, you've got to have great leadership. The Colleton County School District leadership, especially Mr. Warren and Dr. Crosby and Mr. Capel, you got to have a vision. And then you've got to cast that vision to those parents. And I think all the parents on this panel will tell you that. And once you see what's happening, then you need to engage your community. We have some of our community people here. You need to show off. Get your parents involved, get your community involved, show off. Toot your own horn, because if you don't toot it, ain't nobody going to toot it for you. Because your parents, and we have a parent advisory council, a parent support group, parents from a variety of, from every area of the community are invited in, are required. You're supposed to do volunteer hours. Set your parent expectations just like you do for your student. Raise the bar. A lot of parents just want to turn them over to you and let you babysit them. Pull those parents in. Tell them you've got an expectation of them, just like you have an expectation of their child. Through volunteer hours, through an input back into the program, our parents feel empowered. They feel important. And so when their voice is heard, they get to suddenly say, hey, I'm a part of this process. And every one of you in the room knows, as a parent or as a teacher, the parent is your first teacher and your most important teacher. And if you can help teach parents to model what it is you need to get from their kids, you will be a success. So, yes,
very good.
Implementation, very important.
Very good. Let's thank our panelists, number one, for being patient and for having a shorter session.